Peter, I think, is waiting for us.
That's
Mr.
right.
Blockchain, the Guild of Guilds, the man himself. I think in the West Coast still. Oh, he's here.
He's here. Let's bring him on
All
right
right.
now.
Peter
Ing.
Ing.
Welcome to
Mr.
LFG
Peter.
Live.
Hey.
Hey, long time no see.
Wait.
Thank you
I gotta
very
put a
much,
different
guys.
hat on.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Joe has to change his hat real quick.
Yeah,
there we
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Now he's got
Joe.
the right hat on.
Now we're looking good with the BlockchainSpace hat. All right. Matt's a little slow on the trigger. How you doing, Peter? Been a while.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining.
Love the
Yeah.
caps, guys.
Thank you.
Represent.
Oh, he went backwards for the logo appeal there.
Yeah, you got, wait.
There we go.
You did the same.
So.
There you go.
Just put on mine real quick.
Sorry, Buff. Man, yeah. So just for everybody else to know a little bit, we were hanging out with Peter on Friday, and it was epic. Thank you again, Peter. You know, you're on the West Coast here. We're down in San Diego, so we made the drive up to LA. You've been doing a whole North America tour right now, hitting up all the events and kind of making your name out here in the North American region. Kind of curious, what are you learning? What are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah. So I, being based out in Asia, it's hard to get a gauge on just kind of like how visible your brand is on the other side of the world. And so, there's a lot of conferences happening at the moment in the US. There's about 6 or 7 different conferences that I'm going to jump between, and I've already been to 2 so far. So I've been to Permissionless in Florida, been to Axie Infinity Retreat in Vegas, and then now LA is just a little bit of downtime to spend some time with investors and meet with some top tier talent to just kind of get to know the people and the scene here a bit better. And then after this, I'm off to Austin for a couple more conferences, so Decentral, Consensus, and then there's going to be NFT NYC and Collision Conference. So NFT NYC is in New York, and then Collision's in Toronto. So packed agenda for the next coming weeks.
And yeah, and you're speaking at one of them in Austin, I believe. That's what we just found out today. Matt was researching.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to be on the panel together with one of our guild partners, so Play for Change, who's Victor Caribe. He invited me to go speak on the same panel together with him to talk about kind of the future of, I think, gaming guilds and play to earn. So that's going to be really exciting. Very, very glad to kind of connect with a new crowd, right? Because, again, it's really easy to kind of navigate the Asian markets, but then coming out to the US is a whole different beast.
Yeah, man. Well, that's what. Let's give folks a little walkthrough of what BlockchainSpace is, because you might be a new face, a new brand to a lot of folks here, and like you were just saying, in North America, you're not quite here yet, but you're doing a whole marathon here. But in Southeast Asia, I mean, you're huge, and I'm actually on your site here. I think you're tracking almost 24,000 play to earn guilds at this point. Over 2 million players in the metaverse. Talk to us about that a little bit and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so we're actually one of the largest data aggregators of gaming guilds in the play to earn space in the world. Right? And so what we've been doing is actually looking at all the data behind kind of the earnings and the performance behind guilds to basically help guilds use their data to access new services, right? So we support guilds in a couple of different ways. The 2 ways are mainly, the first one is we're a sales force for guilds. So we do CRM solutions. We help them to automate payments and payroll. You've got to think of guilds kind of as a business, right? And that, the larger their guilds becomes, the more difficult it is to be able to track transactions, performance of kind of people playing games, and more difficult to kind of do payroll services as well. And then the second thing is, by using all that data, which is kind of it's already there on the blockchain, right? So we just make it easier to kind of filter and sort, is by tracking all that data, to a specific guild, we can enable kind of financial services to be built around that. So imagine getting access to credit, or imagine being able to get access to kind of NFT loans to be able to scale your guild. right? And in the future, and very, very near future, where we're also coming out with a mobile wallet, where hopefully in the future you'll be able to use your mobile wallet like an extension to your kind of like guild balance, and then you can basically go into shops and pay using your guild balance, right? So I think that's pretty exciting.
No, you're doing a lot, man. I'm kind of showing some stuff on screen, and I mean, it's crazy. And you have a roadmap. I know you have a token as well, the guild token. So I mean, you have a lot of things on that. There's a lot of information on BlockchainSpace.Asia, and everyone should check out the insights too. They're definitely interesting because you're tracking all this data. I'm trying to pull it up here, but it's there it is. It might take a second to load. Here we go. So just to kind of get a picture of some of this data, you make it easy for folks to, to look at this. And it's what, 24,000 guilds. You could look at the demographics of where most of these guilds lie. Because what you're doing is powerful, especially when it comes to, like you said, NFT loans and financing. I mean, you're opening doors for people in ways that haven't been possible before NFT gaming, right?
Yeah, that's right. So if you think about it, like I still like to think of guilds as like kind of digitally native businesses in Web3, right? And those businesses need as much support as possible in this kind of like very volatile market, right? Games are constantly changing, right? And even like the players that are going to be playing the games for the guilds on their behalf, right? They're changing all the time as well. And so these guilds need as much support as possible. And now by being able to identify like the best performing guilds, you're able to actually connect those guilds to investors, right? And investors, they want to be able into the best asset managers out there, right? So if a guild is the best, performing guild in a certain region, you can also say that they're the best, asset manager of like these NFT assets, right, in that region as well. And that's what investors want to see. They want to know like, if I wanted to take a bet on someone managing my assets, because not everyone wants to have to manage their own gaming assets, right? Then you'd go to the guild and ask them to manage that as well. The other thing that I'm seeing right now, and I just finished a lunch with a guy that had a really interesting take on the how things are going to play out. And I was just explaining to them that, guilds are not just GameFi centric, but, they are looking into other kind of like NFT classes as well. So you can look at like, just regular NFTs. You can also look at like, token investments, SAFs and things like that. And, you could probably see like guilds as like mini DAOs in the future. And I don't want to confuse anyone, but imagine that, the way I see a guild is like an organized community, right? And that organized community, it basically will have like multiple different revenue models, right? And one side will be GameFi, where they start to earn from like the gaming stuff that they're doing. And then on the other side, you might be investing into NFTs, where the community really loves certain NFT projects and they help that project to become successful. Then on the other side, you've got a couple of token projects that you want to invest into. And then basically all those earnings are basically what we call the whole entire guild earnings, right? And that could be shared within the community in a DAO structure. So a DAO structure being that, everyone owns a piece of like the revenue. And so like, let's say if I'm the one that's playing computer games all day, I don't want to be just earning like the small amount from the game earnings right now. But if the DAO, if the guild and the DAO is profitable, from other revenue sources, I want to be able to get a cut of that too. And that's kind of how I see guilds kind of playing out. Is the revenue should be shared amongst all participants, and then you don't have to do it so that's like, oh, you've been playing Axie, so you only get Axie earnings. It's now you've been playing Axie, but you're part of the DAO, and you get part of like the entire revenue for the whole DAO, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, man. And that's fascinating. I mean, that's where guilds are so interesting and can be formed in all different ways. And that's what we were talking a lot about on Friday, is how the structure of these guilds are changing. But it's like the core thing is the community, of course. It's always based around people, who's involved, but it's how you structure this. They can kind of be arranged in a ton of ways. I'm kind of curious of where you see, because you had a tweet, yeah, and I want to make sure you're a proper Twitter degen very soon here, Peter. I know that's what you're aiming to be. You should go follow Peter on Twitter. But you were saying something. You're seeing trends for learn to earn and guild communities branching out of the play to earn space, and kind of curious of what are some models that you're seeing that we should be keeping a look at, like how are guilds evolving in some other ways, maybe more on like, this learn to earn concept and all these people you're chatting with. I'm sure you're hearing a bunch of ideas.
Yeah, so, these guilds, again, like what they do that's very important is they onboard people that are non-Web3 native into the Web3 space, right? And so how they do that is going to be through multiple different kind of paths, right? And what we're seeing right now is that, just because the gaming earnings aren't that high for a lot of games right now, that, you're seeing different kind of models that are coming out. And I just call it X to earn, because there's so many now. Like there's move to earn, there's I don't know, there's a dance to earn, I think there's probably even a drink to earn. I saw that somewhere. Right? And there's now learn to earn, and learn to earn is like a really fascinating one where, the idea is that, the first way to get into Web3 has to be through one of these vehicles. And like learn to earn makes a lot of sense for people that are non-Web3 native, especially in like developing markets right now. So again, like Play for Change is doing something really interesting here, where they go to Brazil into the favelas, and they work with NGOs that are teaching kids how to learn about crypto and about Web3. So they're teaching them about wallets, MetaMask, how to make transactions, and then they can earn tokens in doing that, right? And that's by having those tokens can then be converted into different types of assets, right? And a natural progression might be that, let's say if that guild is already in the GameFi space, you convert your learn to earn tokens into gaming tokens or gaming assets, right? Where now let's say you go into Axie, right? And now you have your first team. And then for the great thing about these gaming models right now, like Axie, is something called like the breeding mechanics, right? So when you actually play the game and you earn a certain amount, right, then you can reinvest that earnings. So the SLP that you earn in Axie can be reinvested into kind of breeding out your characters and then having more Axies, right? And then the more Axies that you own, right, then the more potential you have to earn. So it's like, if you think about it, the person who came in through the Brazilian favela, right, in the NGO scenario, right, put in zero capital, right, to get into Web3, but then had the opportunity to get into a game like Axie, then breed those characters, and then start up like a small little business, like a micro business, right? And the more you do that, the more you reinvest your earnings back into like having more characters, the more earnings you're going to have. And these kids literally have no way to earn right now. So I see this like massive social impact narrative happening right now, where from zero capital investment, these people have now become Web3 native, right? And then they are, able to actually set up like a micro business of their own, right? And then they can have passive income from that business. And I think that's super fascinating at this stage.
Yeah, man. I think, and there's some comments in here talking about how, getting kids involved with Web3. I mean, there's such like a bigger mission with what you guys are doing. And like we told you on Friday, you were one of the 3 on our whiteboard that were like, man, Peter and Blockchain Space, they're doing something different, and the data and just looking at the data in different ways, but also giving tools and options for so many different people to onboard into Web3. That's what we were just talking about with Nifty Q just now. Is gaming's going to be kind of that indoctrination to crypto and education for so many people, especially in the bear market, I would imagine. What are some some thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I mean, like the ultimate narrative for us, and like the goal why we do what we do, right, is what we social mobility, right? And the idea of social mobility is that people are kind of born into certain social circumstances that that are completely out of their control, right? So in the Philippines, that's really evident. Like there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of corruption, and this means that certain kind of like labor conditions don't allow you to progress past a certain point, right? And right now, like if you ask the average person in the Philippines, like what do you aspire to be, right? And a lot of them will tell you that they want to work in the BPO industry. So that's called the business process outsourcing industry. So that means foreign companies setting up in the Philippines, and then these Filipino providing kind of like call center services for these foreign companies, right? And the highest you can get is probably to like a very senior management level. And you wouldn't dream of actually kind of owning your own business beyond that, right? You might be able to set up some kind of like small kind of like businesses on the side, but it will be very much limited by the the potential of that particular market, and what you can do there. But like what's happening right now with the metaverse in general is anyone with a mobile phone and an internet connection basically can access the metaverse, right? And so Web3 gaming is basically part of this metaverse, right? Even access to NFTs is a part of that metaverse. Like being able to invest into tokens of any sorts is part of the metaverse, right? So now you've got these people that have basically they've become borderless, right? They now able to access this global 24/7 digital economy, right? Where no one tells them like where the sky's the limit, right? No one tells them that you can only get to a certain point. And I think that's what's happening right now, is that the more interesting part is, especially with that learn to earn aspect, like people are coming in for free, right? And they're participating in this this Web3 economy, this metaverse, right? And they're able to set up these businesses, and it's global, right? There's no like one specific boundary that says like, no, you have to you can only get to a certain limit, right? And I think that's really what's fascinating, and that's kind of like what drives my imagination every day, is like, how far can this thing go?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I actually had a question about the guild tools, because I know BlockchainSpace, you've got a suite of tools as well. And so like when most people think about gaming guilds, people in the space at least, they think of like the YGGs and the avocado guilds and these really monstrous guilds. But the reality is the majority of the guilds in this space are actually small guilds with just like a handful of players. And one of the things I know BlockchainSpace is doing right now is actually creating like a suite of tools to make managing these guilds a lot easier. I mean, we tried to manage an Axie guild for a little while, and just that process of setting up a new wallet, creating a new account inside of Axie, connecting the wallet to the account, giving the login detail, all of that kind of stuff that you have to do just in order to get a scholar playing could be kind of a pain and sort of overwhelming for the average person who isn't running a guild. And I know BlockchainSpace is building a lot of tools to make a lot of that kind of stuff easier for people. So I was wondering if you could speak into some of the tool sets that you have, and maybe give an idea of people who are listening, if you want to start a micro guild and have 5 or 6 people playing under you using your assets, what sort of things does BlockchainSpace provide to help them do that?
Yeah, so we are focused on kind of like two kinds of tool sets right now. So the first is like community management, and usually that typically happens within Discord itself. So we noticed like a lot of those communities are Discord native. Even if you're running like a micro guild with only 10 players, you're typically communicating with that community in Discord all the time, and then you'll create all those multiple different channels, and you want to be able to do announcements and like move people from one place to another, and give them some kind of like transparency on their earnings as well. So the first place that we actually help people is within Discord itself. So we provide community management tools through Discord bots. Right, we have a couple of different Discord bots. The first one being focused on Axie, and then the second one now being a more universal bot for all guilds, and we call that Guild Bot, and that's going to be coming out of private alpha soon. From there, you basically can do things like, application screening. So you can invite people into your Discord server, say, please fill out this application, tell me about your background, right? So that I know whether you're a good fit for, the game that we're playing, right? That kind of starts from there. And then the second part is really showing them their earnings just by, writing a slash command and saying, can I get the balance, right? So you go /balance, and then you're able to see your earnings in real time, right? And that really helps with like transparency for the community itself and for your players that are playing on a daily basis. Then on the second side, we go into kind of like more into guild management, which we call our CRM or ERP solution, which is if you have basically all your accounts which are already linked to the Discord bot. Now, all these accounts, you can now see holistically how much you're earning as a whole guild. And that's really for the guild manager. So remember, Discord for the community directly. And then we have a tool called Kaizen, which is our CRM ERP solution. And that's for the guild manager. Right? And then from there, you can basically see as a guild manager, how is my guild performing? And then automate some of the transactions that you're doing. Right, things like automated payroll solutions, automated assignments of people into certain accounts, right, and just like transfer people in and out, right. So then it just becomes a lot easier. Think of it as like Salesforce, basically for the GameFi scene.
I mean, this is huge. I feel like you're ahead of the game on so many fronts and laying the infrastructure and the tools, and obviously you have all the connections. You have the almost 24,000 guilds and over 2 million people. So, I mean, that's immensely valuable to so many people. And not only just, the games, because you're obviously, a lot of them benefit from you and the onboarding, but all these scholars are the people that are maybe wanting to hold these guilds. I think it was a great question, man. I haven't even thought about that, but there's so many micro guilds. And I remember you told us on Hustle and Flowchart, our podcast, maybe a month or so ago, that there's way more of these micro guilds than the macro guilds that might have, thousands of people. It's what, like the average is something like 7 people, I think.
Yeah, so I think the average now is slightly higher, just because the more data that we aggregate, usually the numbers start to move around a bit. But I don't think it's moved that much. Like I think the average is around 22 accounts now per guild. And that's probably also because a lot of these guilds have just not stopped reinvesting back into their guilds, right, and then increasing those numbers, right. So when you started with 7 accounts, now you got 20 accounts, and it's not that hard to do that even within the space of like a month, right. So the micro guilds observation, so that we were the first ones to basically map out the whole guild ecosystem in the world. Right, and we did so by predominantly actually focusing on Axie, because Axie was holding around 60-70% like market share of all games in the world at the time. Right, I think it might be around like 40 now, right, which is still ridiculously high. I mean, the next game after Axie is still very, very small by comparison. If you consider Axie might have around 3 million wallets, or around 700,000 daily active users. The next one going down might only have like around 100,000 wallets and probably less daily active users, like 20, 30,000 or something, right? Yeah. So there's a big difference between Axie and the next game. And so what we did is we dug really deep into like the on-chain data and coupled it together with some off-chain data, and we were able to kind of like see what the trends were for all of these different guilds. And we realized, there is a massive long tail of guilds where most people don't own more than 100 accounts or more than, like not in the thousands, which was a very there was a misconception previously, because the guilds that are making the most noise and most visible on Twitter are usually the ones that are really well funded and have very big followings, right? And that's not basically their fault. It's they are they're just larger and they have a much larger presence, right? But there is a massive long tail of guilds, and so you wonder kind of like, okay, so are the So the ones on Twitter, which we call macro guilds, which are above 1,000 accounts, right? Are they kind of driving the whole space? And then we realized, like, if we dug into the data, no, they weren't, right? So if you have a look, if you split it up between macro, mid-tier, and micro guilds, we're looking at only around 1% of the total kind of like accounts coming from macro guilds. Then I think it was around 2% from mid-tier guilds, and then around 97% coming from micro guilds. So it was absolutely the large majority is coming from micro guilds, right? Wow. And if you think about it, why did it play out like that? You can actually, it's basically this whole social mobility narrative basically playing out. And it just got justified with the data. So if you think about it, so in the Philippines, Axie went absolutely viral. Around over 2 million players came in from the Philippines alone, right? And what happened was a lot of those people either started off as scholars, so basically someone playing someone else's loaned account, and then going through that phase, like, so exactly that narrative that I was talking about. So they own their first account, then they start reinvesting the earnings of their first account to be able to create, these micro guilds, right? Yeah. So they go from owning one account to owning 20 accounts, right? And then from 20 accounts, even today, I think you could still get around $200 to $300 net, per month, right? Which is still pretty good, and that's, think about it, in a developing market, getting like $200 per month is like, that really helps.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's totally game changing. Yeah.
So I've seen a few questions down in the comments about where people can go use these tools. If somebody wanted to sign up for your Discord bot or your Kaizen tool, where's the best place to go and log in and set these tools up for people?
Yeah, so the Kaizen is available on app.blockchainspace.asia. You can also find it on our website, blockchainspace.asia. It's there under the Kaizen button. And then for the Discord bot, if you're using Axie in particular, just look up the Axie Academy bot, right? Axie Academy Discord bot. The guild bot itself, which is going to be more universal across different games, is still in private testing. So if you want to test it out with us, then drop me a line on Twitter, and then we can give you access.
Go follow Peter on Twitter. Go get him.
That's right. Peter, thank you so much for coming on, man. I have to ask you, what's your relationship with gaming, and what is your favorite game of all time?
Oh, man. So, yeah, I have to be honest, like, I'm not like the best role model as a gamer. So, I mean, like, I'm more of a Call of Duty guy. Okay. So, I definitely spent a lot of hours in front of COD over COVID. Yeah, I think I'm more of a Call of Duty, and then like we'll play around with mobile games, especially just killing time on the mobile. But yeah, Call of Duty is probably the one for me.
Nice, man. And one last question before we let you go. What is your vision with Blockchain Space 5 years out, 10 years out now? What is your main goal? If you could step back and go, yes, I did it with Blockchain Space, what would that look like?
So yeah, so I mean, I guess we're already trying to execute part of that vision, which is making internet funny money through the gaming through the gaming scene in real life, right? So we want to be able to allow people to run their guilds as if it was a regular enterprise, and have a mobile app or a credit card on the other end where you can actually spend all of that money in real life, And I was thinking about that when I was sitting at lunch earlier. I want to be able to use my app and my in-game earnings to be able to pay for this meal. And so that's kind of where I see it. In the same time, obviously, what you want to be doing is uplifting lives, especially in developing nations. I think that's a metric that we probably don't focus on enough, which is I'd love to know, how many lives did we really change, and uplift, along the way. And I think it's not going to be geography specific. I think there's going to be, so the way I see it is like, again, different games, different regions of the world. So if you can earn $15 a month, that might not be enough for Filipinos to be interested, but that might be enough for Venezuelans to be interested, right? So I'd love to see like Venezuelans like moving up, you know, a notch, right? And then again, like, you know, $20, $50 per month, that might not be enough for Filipinos, but it might be enough for people in Brazil in the favelas, right? And so, you know, I'd love to get that metric to see how many people, you know, how many lives we touched and how many people were able to kind of bring into Web3.
Amazing, man. Amazing. Appreciate everything that you've done. When I first moved down to San Diego and hung out with Matt and Joe, I put your name at the top of our whiteboard, and I'm pretty sure it's still up there. And last Friday, y'all got to hang out. Sadly, I wasn't able to go up to LA. I think, Joe, you might have a picture of that. What'd y'all get into on Friday?
It is ready.
Yeah, there it is.
Y'all have a pretty good smile going on there. What'd
This
y'all
might
get
be
into?
after about 5 drinks, actually, but
It was a good time. Thank you,
Yeah,
Peter.
man.
Yeah, man. You're a great guy. I just love the vision and everything you're doing, man. So I appreciate you spending the time with us here too. And excited to see where blockchain space goes. And also, you know, there is a token, the guild token. You didn't mention that, but that's on the website. And I mean, just go peek at that, because there's a lot of ways to get involved with blockchain space. And if you believe in the mission, obviously there's a lot of ways to get involved with blockchain space. So appreciate it, Peter. And I'm sure we'll chat pretty soon here.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome,
All right,
man.
man.
Take care, brother.
Yeah,
See ya.